You're a very deep thinker. I know that because I'm one. If I'm one, we all have it in us. So we all have that ability, capability, and the propensity to think beyond and beneath the surface. Why don't we do it more often? My name is Kenneth. I'm the founder of Mindset Boulevard. Find self, know self, be self, own self. Love self and give of self as a prerequisite to finding purpose and a precondition to living and leading a fulfilled life. We get to talk about niches all the time, but what's a niche? Is it possible it is just social conditioning? Is it just me as an expert trying to get you in a particular state and frame of mind, anchoring your thoughts and your emotions to that particular frame, to that context, knowing that if I do so, it will create an emotional current of electricity, a surge, which will allow you to associate importance to what it is I'm talking about. So let's say you have challenges with your kids, raising your kids. You've got difficult children, and I talk about difficult children. Does that evoke something in you? Now, if it evokes something in you, what exactly is it that it evokes? How does that evocation make you feel? What comes to your mind? What is it you think about? How emotionally charged is it? Notice when you identify with the fact that you struggle with raising your kids, it serves as a trigger. Then there is an emotional upheaval within you. This emotional upheaval gets you excited. If you're not careful, it brings anxiety because you would have been thrown into a state of duress, distress, and potentially stress. Naturally, fear kicks in and you'd give up just about anything to resolve that problem because there are ramifications and repercussions further downstream if this particular issue is not resolved or was not resolved. You all know how proud we are of our kids. Sometimes we wear them as accolades or badges on our epaulets, on our shoulders. You want to be able to sit and praise your kids, be proud of them when you're with your friends, don't you? I want the same thing for me as well. Sometimes we actually want to get to live our lives through our kids, our own kids. Our unmet aspirations, our dead and crashed dreams. We try to see if we could find a filter through our kids to give those dreams and aspirations expression. Is that why they're here? To serve our own intents and purposes. To live and to lead. To exercise and to manifest our unexpressed dreams. Is that why they're here? Have you noticed that when it comes to tuition, for instance, the price of your Kuman and all the other academic vehicles that help our kids, especially when they get to that public examination age, when they get to that age where they actually sit GCSEs, O levels, A levels, when they get to university, have you noticed that the exams become so expensive? The books equally are, or the books that are usually sold as aids to these kids are 10 times the value of regular books. Why is that so? Of course, because of the emotional attachment, the sentiment and the sentimental value that they come with. That is priced higher than the actual content or the material in the book. So you notice the world works in a certain way. It's all about waves. There's high tide, there is low tide. Everything that rides on the waves that bring high tide tend to be expensive. It's no different with the niche. So let's look at another example. Take, for instance, you're having trouble with your spouse. The moment you hear that there is someone out there who can help with this particular issue, someone who's an expert in this department, it triggers something within you. And just the thought of a failed marriage and the possibility that there is someone out there who could actually help you rein it in, who could help you out of that difficult situation, who could help save your marriage. The emotional value, the sentimental value that carries is out of this world. And it naturally follows suit that the price tag on it would be equally humongous. So we've talked about your relationship with your kid, which is not working. We've talked about your relationship with your spouse, which may not be working. Let's look at the relationship with a total stranger. Would you pay anything at all to mend that relationship? No, I probably have to pay you to fix that relationship, and it would be a total waste of your time. Why? Because there's no value to it. There's no intrinsic sentimental value to it. Have you noticed that when you are in a bad mood, it takes someone very special to get you out of that mood? Which is why there's an expression called transference or transferred aggression. You take emotions that have been evoked by one person and you express, articulate, and manifest them on someone else. Transfer aggression. Why? You love this person too much, take those emotions out on them, to hold them accountable, to hold them responsible for it, to push them to grow. Which is why, typically, you would have the battered, abused wife who ends up. That's not a very good example. Let's try something else. It is for the same reason that you would have a young man, for instance, who has been abused by their parent, especially a mother. They grow up to become an abuser. Meanwhile, they're very protective of their mother. They could become a serial killer. They could become a rapist. But they protect their mother with everything that they have got. It is an extension of what is typically referred to as the Stockholm Syndrome, where you protect your abuser because of the connection and the ties of the relationship that you have with this abuser. They have oppressed you. They have minimized you. They have undermined you to a place where you depend on them for validation because you attached so much importance to their being. You give them a certain value. And if they devalue you, because of that emotional attachment and the connection they have with you and their ability to speak into your life, you tend to attach and to assign to them more importance than they actually have. You fail to realize that if they can treat you the way they do, then you have everything to teach them and they need you more than you need them. That is not always easy to sever ourselves from these abusive relationships now, is it? No. Because there is something about a connection that has gone wrong. Before you form the connection, you have your faculties, you have your senses. You can think straight. You can put one and one together. This is prior to falling in love. But the moment you have fallen in love, it all goes out the window because the chemicals take control. Your hormonal system, your endocrine system becomes the boss and runs the show. So it is for this reason that we have the term addiction. It is also for this reason that we have to be careful when we are dealing with anything, or when we entertain cravings, or when we have aversion. Avoid cravings, avoid aversion. Because Cravings will lead to addiction. Aversion will lead to resentment. And both of them are a recipe for disaster. So let's come back to the topic we were enunciating. Let's come back to the topic that caught our attention. The fact that we attach sentimental value to particular areas. And of course, the world understands that we have this predisposition, we have this leaning, this inclination, we have this predilection. And so it is easy to carve that area out and to build a certain semblance of expertise in this area and claim to be an authority. And I am saying, well, if it works for you, that's great. But does it really truly work that way? What's the proof? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, you're miserable today. Extremely miserable. Everything's gone wrong. And all of a sudden I show up at your doorstep and I tell you, here, $10 million, all yours. You don't have to work for it. Use it to solve your problems. In fact, you've got enough in there to take you 3 or 4 lifetimes. If you were spending 100,000 a day, or say 10,000 a day, I bet all your problems will just fizzle away. True or false? You tell me. So, if you were miserable, and obviously the way whether you reacted or responded depended on your state and frame of mind, what is it about that 1 million that made it kiss all your problems away? In fact, if I give a condition that you should go out and love everybody you have a problem with, all the people you don't get along with, you would have to find a way to connect, to relate, to engage, to embrace them, and to empower them out of their misery. Up the stakes, up the antiques, 10 billion. I bet that'd be a piece of cake for you to resolve, right? You wouldn't need an expert in any area. That ideally will be or would be motivation enough. So this brings me to the topic of conversation, the topic that touches my heart. And this is the Nicheless Niche. Notice we deal with pain and pleasure. Those are the 2 emotions that reign supreme. If I'm in pain, I'm looking for a way to alleviate that pain. If I'm in an environment that invokes, and invites pain, then I look for a way out. Ultimately, the environment has absolutely nothing to do with the way I am feeling on the inside. It has everything to do with, or what I feel on the inside has everything to do with the meaning I give to what's happening, how I interpret it, the value I assign to it, and of course, my dispositions towards it. That is something only I can do. Someone else can help me do. That person doesn't need to be a specialist in this particular space, because all they'd be doing is teaching me how to relate with myself. They'll be teaching me 2 main things: how to love and how to be patient, how to give and how to forgive. Forgiving means you come into a place and a headspace where all you want to do is contribute to bringing healing to an environment. So you stand for giving, you stand for justice, you stand for unity, for giving, for justice, for unity. Same things, pretty much. They're telling you what your focus is. You're not coming for taking. You're coming for giving. In order to be in that place where you're a forgiver, you need to be a very good forgetter. Not forgetting as in taking, but forgetting as in not storing things in your memory, in your mind, keeping things in your brain that don't need to be there. And the way they take root and become tenants, running in our heads all day, wreaking havoc. It's a direct function of what role we assign them, what importance we give them. Do you still believe in the niche when it comes to relationships? Please don't. When it comes to specializations, if you're going to become an aeronautic engineer, there are certain things you need to learn. There are certain things you need to understand. If you don't know them, there's absolutely nothing you can do about them. When it comes to relationship, when it comes to that relationship area, the only thing you need to know is you. That's who you need to know. Mindset Boulevard is all about taking you to that place where you get to know yourself. You get to understand who you are. You get to understand what your triggers are, how you came by these triggers, the filters through which you articulate and express yourself, the different personalities that are the adaptabilities to your different environments, how they show up, when they show up, why they show up, and for how long they show up. And then, of course, we ask one primordial question. How do you overcome these different personalities? How do you become the central nervous system, the person, the authority guiding the different personalities that take care of business within your ecosystem? Because you are an ecosystem. And we all have different ways by which and through which we protect ourselves as we face, meet, greet, embrace danger. Danger which means absolutely nothing but the meaning we give it, how we perceive our environment, how we define our situation, how we ride the waves of our circumstances. That's all there is to it. Nothing else. When you look at the tenets of Mindset Boulevard, they give you a simple key and a compass that allow you to circumnavigate every area of your life. It doesn't matter if it is your personal space, your relationship space, or your career space. You don't believe me? Let me put it out plain and simple. And by the way, I don't have any problem. See, it is easy to talk about what I am currently discussing. Let us digress a bit, just to put a few things into perspective. Notice a lot of people are cagey with knowledge. They are crafty with knowledge. They don't realize, or we fail to realize, that the more we empower others, the more we are empowered in the process. So you empower someone, there's a ripple effect. Eventually, this person empowers someone who empowers someone who eventually brings a solution to a problem that you had next door and couldn't resolve. So I have no problems sharing everything that I know with you. And by the way, let us talk a bit about knowledge and the conundrum of that trajectory between a place of not knowing and a place of knowledge. To put it blatantly, from ignorance to mastery. There is unconscious incompetence, which is us being in that place where we don't know what we do not know, and we do not even know that we don't know what it is we don't know. So we're incompetent and we don't know it. Then there is conscious incompetence, which is knowing we don't know something and not being in a position to actually figure out how to, or having the conviction, the wherewithal, the temerity, the will to learn. That is conscious incompetence. We wing it. We fake it until we make it. Not the best way out of any sticky situation. It doesn't hurt. Oh, it does hurt to not try. Or it does hurt to actually convince ourselves that we will fake it and eventually, hopefully, make it, and not have a particular strategy, not seek the understanding that goes with it. Then, of course, the next thing is there is awareness. Awareness brings us to a place and headspace where we can identify something. We see it, we recognize it, we can tell that it makes sense, but not enough to articulate it. So it looks, feels, smells, tastes familiar until we try to. So we believe we know it until we try or make an attempt to teach someone else, to explain that concept to someone else. We come up short. And after that, we go to a place of understanding where we have studied the material, disciplined ourselves to get to the bottom of it. We've understood it. And we think we know it. So notice there is ignorance, there is awareness, there is understanding, then there is knowing. It is important not to come to a place of understanding and then to think that we are home dry, because we are not. It is one thing to know what to do. It is another thing to know how to do what to do. We all know that we should be kind. We all know that we should be patient. We all understand the value of dialogue, communication. When push comes to shove and rubber meets the road, how well do we do in these different scenarios? When you come to a place where you need to exercise unconditional love, where you need to forgive, where you need to exercise patience, where you need to give, where you need to bring healing, leave a situation better than you found it, when you have to think about the other first, which is actually putting yourself first, because you then focus on the things that matter. When we lock horns with that reality, what is our disposition? What is your disposition? When you find yourself in a situation where someone has wronged you, and it is clear that they have wronged you, and you would be well within your rights to retaliate, and you have all the rebuttals lined up, waiting, to deal that fatal blow. What choices do you make? Knowing that everyone would understand, knowing that it would be justified, what choices do you make? That is the difference between understanding and knowing. See, because knowing only happens through the filter of experience, and there are two ways of experiencing an event. There is the spiritual, which is what's going on in the mind, and there is the physical, the actual experience. It's like me. I could practice playing the guitar by sitting down, imagining that I was playing the guitar, visualizing it and actually doing it. Studies have shown that if I do that consistently and consecutively, there would be no major difference between the person who was actually plucking the strings. So, as far as the mind is concerned, that experience is real, whether I just imagined it or actually did it. When you dream, for instance, have you had this interesting dream where you're playing football and then you realize at some point that your bladder is full and you recuse and excuse yourself and you go to the side to ease yourself? And oops, there was an accident. Now that's your dream in your sleep. But notice that dream actually activates your neurons. These neurons run a program that identifies with the challenges, the emergency you're feeling within you. And this emergency finds expression by having you relieve yourself of distress, to the chagrin of your realization later on, if you're not lucky to realize it immediately, that you were in a pool of your own urine. Or think about a nightmare. You have a nightmare and it is so vivid, you jump and you're palpitating. Your heart is racing. These are all spiritual experiences. So, external manifestations of internal representations. These things happen to you. There's no sense of reality you can attach to them. But guess what? They are as real as it gets, hard as a rock, concrete, as I am talking to you right now. And notice, you and I are connecting on a very deep level, as if we know each other. We may know each other, and just as this may be your first experience of me, yet I can connect with you as if you were here in the flesh, and I stood before you. I possibly can connect and relate with you right now by far better than people who've grown with you your entire life. How's that possible? Speaks to, again, that nicheless niche. I diverted a bit to talk about the whole concept of ignorance, not knowing, awareness, understanding, and then knowing through the filter of experience. And before we went off on that tangent, we were talking about the whole concept of the nicheless niche and the fact that it is just another trigger that is anchored to a sensitive topic, a topic that has got high sentimental value. You see, this is how we create triggers. Steep someone in an emotionally charged environment. Anchor it with what it is you want them to associate that experience with. Ram it in and it's a slam dunk. Then you can sell something as a niche and have a whole cluster of people gravitate in that direction. Not know what it is that they're looking for. You see, and it's natural for them to fall for it, because if they knew how to help themselves, they would have done so. But because they don't know how to help themselves, they believe this stranger. They believe me, who tells them, hey, I know what your problem is. Come to me. I am the expert in your life. Never mind the fact that I don't have a clue who you are. I have not lived your experiences. But for some reason, I know how to get you to solve your problem. And if I'm lucky, I could actually convince you that you had problems you did not have. I could get you to apply solutions that will deal with other issues in your life and get you thinking you have resolved the problem you came to resolve, whereas you would have exacerbated them. Why? Because these same problems will show up in other areas of your life, wearing different hats. So anybody who tells you that they are an expert in a particular niche when it comes to relating and relationships, I would say embrace them, listen to them with caution, be cautious. So everybody, even those who understand intuitively that the concept of the niche is a fad and to a greater extent a farce, still embraces it. Most people embrace it. Why? Because it is hard to go against the grain, and this is my invitation to you all out there. Those of you who, like me, understand intuitively and instinctively that the concept of the niche is a bit of a distraction. It generates and creates a segmentation that is not reflective of the truth when you know what you're doing. And these are not just words. Why do I say so? Because when you get into the realm of the quantum, the concept of the physical, the concept of what you can touch loses meaning, it loses its value. That's why we talk about the wave particle duality of form. A bit of silence there for what I said to sing. So let us come back to the core topic. Why do I say, when it comes to relationships, the whole concept of the niche is a bit of a distraction? You see, I don't know what your religious persuasion is, what your spiritual leanings are. Well, we all have the same spiritual identity. We have different religious leanings. Even to you who believes you're an atheist, that is a religion. Your religion simply means you believe in no God, but then you need a lot of faith to believe that what you see out here, the world as you and I know it, the creatures, flora, fauna, to believe that these are just accidents. We all know that chaos has one character and one property. It gravitates towards disorder. Now, the world, take the humans out, of course, because the world seems to have been doing pretty well until we humans came along. So I'm not particularly sure whether we should be more concerned with viruses or whether we should start looking for a vaccine against humans. Let's come back to the key core subject matter. Why do I say the concept of the niche is a bit of a farce? I was going to anchor this to spirituality, religion, We talk about three persons in one God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Just as I will ask those who are not particularly religious or spiritual to bear with me. I'll look for another example that speaks to your particular case. But for those who have some kind of religious or spiritual leaning, think about body, soul, and spirit. And if you speak English, then I'm sure you would already identify with a lot of what I'm saying. You know your body, and you do understand that your body is not necessarily who you are. Because there are times when you're conflicted. You know what you should do, but you don't do it because your cravings take you in one direction, whereas your intellect or your heart takes you in another direction. There's a very strong and very impressive adage that goes thus: the head or the mind thinks, the heart knows. It brings us to that whole place of conscience, where sometimes you do something and you just know that it is wrong. Not because you have done it before, not because you have seen it before, learned about it. You just know that it is wrong. And it bothers you. As much as you try to justify it, the simple example would be PTSD. I'd rather call it post-traumatic disposition. Post-traumatic stress disposition as opposed to a disorder. We're always in a hurry to make a problem out of every single thing. Of course, it becomes a disorder when you cannot manage it, when you cannot work, you cannot cope within that environment, and it starts impacting on your health, and it starts impacting on the health of others. The reason I say we're always in a hurry to coin things as disorders is because way before we get to a point where we need certain kinds of intervention, we find that we may be in a rush to escalate and to go nuclear and to apply drugs where drugs have no place, where there would be more of a problem than a solution. So let's come back to the concept of, to the concept of the body, the conscience, which is part of our consciousness, and the spirit. So for those of you who speak English, obviously, you know, sometimes we say people are high-spirited, people are low-spirited. When you're high-spirited, you come alive. When you're low-spirited, there is something about you that is dead, that is absent, that is not activated, that has left the building. So, and then of course, for someone like me, who has experienced the concept of, call it the subtle body, call it whatever it is you want to call it, I know it is my spirit person. So my spirit man, or woman, I'm sure that part of me has no gender, actually comes alive. Well, it is. I call it spiritual activity. I'm spiritually active. So it can move me, and I can feel how it moves me in different directions as I cede control. We will talk about the concept of the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit. We will see how these different interfaces interrelate, interconnect to create the concept of the human being in its entirety, in its wholesomeness. But let's come back to the individual. So you notice we talk about body, mind, and spirit. Body, soul, and spirit. The body is a physical entity. The soul is the essence of your being, your key core. It's not physical. And then the spirit would be akin to electricity, which is agnostic. It is pure in its form, brings light, brings life. Then there is the concept of the Holy Spirit, which is spirit adorned with gospel, bearings, global positioning, or so your global positioning system, or your satellite navigation system. So that would be, in the Christian sense, what we refer to as the Holy Spirit. Otherwise, spirit is what we get, the active ingredient of God in our lives. In your life and in my life, we call that spirit. It is pure, it is good, it is love. It knows no harm, it knows no bias, it is infinitely patient, and infinite patience is love. As simple as that. When you bring all of these together in one place, you get healing. So that's the property of the Spirit. The Holy Spirit is a navigation system. It allows you to make the right decision in different situations. It gives you the proper disposition. It affords you the tools to be able to discern. Again, we start talking about the fruits of the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit. So if we were to look at the gifts of the Spirit, we'll be looking at knowledge, understanding, wisdom, discernment, fortitude, truth, piety, which is reverential fear, different from demonic fear or trepidatious fear. Reverential fear is respect. So when you carry power within you, then you have to respect that power. When you drive a car, you need to be cognizant of the fact that it's a weapon on wheels that you carry. And you are dangerous. If you carry a gun, there's enormous power. It can take just as it can save life. And that's the importance. Coming back to the conversation and to the core of the issue. So we've talked about the spirit, we've talked about the soul, and of course we've talked about the body. Now notice that when these three are in sync, you're closer to discernment, to the state of discernment. Because there is something called universal intelligence, vitality. It is the same property, it is the same energy that animates a plant, the same intelligence that animates a plant. So your plant doesn't need to go to school to figure out what to do. Doesn't write GCSEs, it doesn't take the Kumon, it doesn't do an 11 plus. It just knows what it should do, when it should do it, how it should do it, and why it should do it. It's all written in the DNA, in the fabric of its DNA, locked in that thing we call its seed. Well, you and I have to go to school to understand ourselves, let alone understand the world. And look at the world today and you just get to see how good a job we're doing with the whole concept of life and living, camaraderie. En fait, parfois, je me demande si j'étais Dieu, je ne sais pas ce que je ferais de la terre. Suis-tu des êtres humains? Oui, ça me dépasse. Déjà que on regarde notre façon de vivre, on regarde la façon dont on se côtoie. Et je me demande vraiment ce qui se passe dans nos cervelles. Je me demande si on tient conscient, on est conscient du fait que on fait partie de la planète. C'est souciant. Je me fais de soucis. On oublie en fait que la Terre, c'est nous. Et nous, c'est la Terre. Puisqu'en fin de compte, quand on est décédé, quand on meurt, où est-ce qu'on va? Mais nous sommes enterrés. Donc il y a intérêt à ce qu'on se rappelle de tout ça. Regardons un peu l'environnement. Regardez un peu ce qu'on fait de notre environnement. Et d'ailleurs, d'où vient notre nourriture? Nous sommes tous nourris par cet environnement. Donc, si nous polluons notre environnement, où est-ce qu'on va en venir? Les déchets nucléaires, surtout, on finit par nous punir nous-mêmes. C'est juste pour vous dire en fait que on est tous un et unis. Nous créons des divisions un peu partout, à tort et à travers. Et en fin de compte, ça se répercute. Et ce comportement se récidive du jour au lendemain. Nous voyons les dégâts que ça cause, mais on n'apprend pas du tout. Et je me demande pourquoi. Comment se fait-il qu'on se tue, qu'on s'entretue, même sans être conscient? The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. Du carbone, de l'hydrogène, de l'oxygène et du nitrogène. C'est ça. Carbone, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. Les carbohydrates, les protéines, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's who we are. So ultimately, like I was saying, we are our environment. I just had to break into French. My spirit led me to break into French. I'm not particularly sure who's out there listening to me that really needs to tune in, needed to tune in and connect with, plug into that message. So yes, if your challenges are in French, if your misery speaks French, that's just to let you know that you can still come to us. We've got a place for you. Auch wenn sie nur Deutsch reden. Wir können Deutsch auch. Das stimmt. Sie können auf uns kommen und sich auf uns lassen, dass wir uns um sie kümmern würden. Wenn Sie irgendwelche Probleme haben, bitte schön. Nicht allein versuchen, auf Lösungen zu kommen. Es ist sehr einfach. Es ist viel einfacher, wenn durch Unterhaltungen die Leute in Zusammenhang Lösungen finden. Und nein, das ist hier kein AI, es ist kein AI. Ich war 4 Jahre in Deutschland. Ich habe mein Studium in Deutschland gebracht. Ich habe die Sprache in der Niedersachsen, und zwar in Clausthal-Tellerfeld, habe ich die Sprache gelernt und mein Studium an der Freien Universität zu Berlin. Fortgesetzt. Ja. Das heißt, ich kann doch Deutsch. Wenn ihr oder eure Probleme nur Deutsch reden, dann können wir auch Unterhaltungen haben. Lassen Sie auf mich an. Sie können auf mich zählen. Das zusammen durch die Unterhaltung, dass wir auf irgendwelche, egal was für Probleme ihr habt oder Sie haben, dass wir Lösungen finden. Und passen Sie auf. Ich werde Ihnen keine Lösungen geben, sondern Sie finden für sich eigene Lösungen, weil sie sind meine Strategien. Du bist die Lösung. Du bist die Strategie. Ab und zu mal vergesse ich, welche Sprache ich rede. Aber ich hoffe, Sie glauben endlich, dass es noch Hoffnung gibt. Nicht nur aufgeben. Und auch am wichtigsten, die zusammen sein. Aufmerksamkeit. Bitteschön. Gegen die Einsamkeit. Nicht einsam sein. Nicht einsam sein. So yes, that was interesting. It's 52 minutes into this conversation. Obviously, we're going to have to create a podcast. I didn't think I was going to be talking for 52 minutes. But again, let's come back to the topic of conversation, to our mainstay. So, the Nicheless Niche. We're making a case for why the Nicheless Niche can be a distraction. Up to a certain point, it could be a good thing. So it's great to have people who have similar experiences come to the same place. There's a certain synergy. It's a bit like prayer. People with the same faith, who share faith, they come together and they start praying. And they change the aura, they change the vibe of that place and that space. They infuse it with energy that it did not have before. And miracles start happening. It's been proven. And that is real. So by that same token, you would notice that if people who have similar challenges come to someone who, calls themselves the expert, the whole concept of the placebo effect and the nocebo effect equally kick in. So from that perspective, clearly the niche works. And what we need to do is to get people to realize that the power that they carry is all that they need to find the solutions that they seek. And that is what I am about to say to you and to prove it to you when you show up. It doesn't matter where your challenges are. It doesn't matter whether they are at work. It doesn't matter whether they are with your relationships. Because guess what? When you're at work and you're struggling with something, what exactly are you struggling with? You're struggling with people, processes, procedures. You're struggling with systems. And if you're struggling with those systems, then it is your ability to relate, interact, embrace, coordinate, manage these systems and the different entities that make up the ecosystem. True or false? It's as simple and it's as complicated as that. If you find an environment if you find yourself, in an environment you can't operate in, then that's a recipe for disaster. It's a bit like a heart cell trying to survive in the kidney. That is a recipe for disaster. Take that heart cell back into the cell from the kidney and we're good. Take a kidney cell and expect it to function in the heart. We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. No, we wouldn't do that. And it's for that same reason that you shouldn't be too long doing a job you can't stand just because you want to A, pay the bill, or 2, B, keep up with the Joneses, look good. It'll kill you. Sometimes it's important to be as blunt as I just was. If it's a temporary measure, absolutely. There should always be a contingency plan to find a way and to gravitate towards that which we are naturally called to be and called to do. Because we open up a whole world that was there all along, but we were completely oblivious of it. The world of fulfillment as opposed to the world of happiness, which is what is sold. What you need to do to be happy. And happiness is always tagged with and tagged to something that is external to you. The car you drive, the neighborhood you live in, the job you have, the size of your bank account, the way you walk, the way you talk, how you dance, who your friends are. These are the distractions. They are ephemeral, not long-lasting. I bet everything you own today has become normal, even in your own eyes. Correct me if I'm wrong. But before you had them, you thought, if only you could have them, you'd be a happy man, a happy woman. Today, they are just junk, gathering dust in the courtyard, in the garage, or under your bed, in the loft. As you replace them year in, year out, thinking the next one will be the one. It's for that reason that women typically don't wear the same dress to any party. That's our reality. Yes, because we look for our identity out there, whereas we should be going in. And when we connect with that which is inside, the outside becomes boring. I know, because I have been there. I went on this meditation boot camp. I talk about it all the time. Meditating 10 hours a day for 10 days over a 12-day period. No social media contact, no communication with about 120 other people segregated on vegetarian food. Yes, you heard me. Sat in the same spot, going nowhere, yet experiencing everything and going everywhere. I'll tell you this story some other day. Today is about the Nicheless Niche. When you go on that kind of journey and you come out, you realize that everything that you seek out there is within, and you're just trying to connect with you. So you go out there looking for you, only to realize that you were all along. That which you sought, that which you were looking for. It's for that same reason that we are told, be the change that you seek, and the world will reorder itself to adjust and adapt to you. Be authentic, and authenticity will flow in your direction and flock to you. The Nicheless Niche. In a nutshell, what it means is, regardless of what it is you're dealing with, when you come to us, we show you how to relate with yourself. across the three spheres of life. The personal, which will encompass your hobbies, your pastimes, what it is that you do to recharge yourself, because that's what makes you feel resourceful. That's what makes you become resourceful. And if that's not happening, then there will be disorder, there will be a conflict within you. That conflict will cause a sense of lack of ease, which is called dis-ease. When you bring that dis and that ease together, you get disease. And that's how we fall ill. When we're under prolonged stress, duress, and distress. It brings us to a place of suffering. And when we last there for too long, we then snap into depression. In that depressive space or state, we try to cope with the mind. We take leave of our faculty of engagement. The things we used to do, the things we used to love, we take leave of absence. They all leave the building. We start coping with the mind. And that's the beginning of psychosis. And that too comes in different flavors. It's a whole spectrum. As we tap into these different spiritual realms and we activate different programs that do different things. Reality as we know it takes the back seat, and whatever it is we connect to in that spiritual space comes to the fore. Seizes the reins. And because you and I don't understand what's happening in that place and in that space, that person's head space, we call them crazy. Because they no longer follow the rules that you and I are comfortable with. So we carve out a box, put them in that box, label it, just as we would give a dog a bad name and hang it. Whereas they may just be going through a phase. They may finally be coming to a place where they realize that pretense doesn't work. And they're going to have to go through the meal, go through the desert to come out the other end. Then, of course, there's the relationship space. If you can relate with yourself, if you've got head and heart coherence, which simply means you are in sync, then guess what? You will be able to relate with anybody else. Because whatever they throw at you, you will respond and not react to, knowing that you have an obligation and a responsibility to bring peace to every engagement, every interaction, every deliberation. Living it better than you found it, stronger than you met it, more resourceful than was the case before you showed up. That is maturity. That is responsibility, ability to respond. And if you have such mastery of who you are, it naturally means you understand your gifts, your abilities, your capabilities, and your strengths. Your gifts, your abilities, your capabilities. And your talents, I meant to say, not your strengths. So you tell me, do you still believe in the nicheless niche? And if you understand exactly what your gifts, your abilities, your capabilities, and your talents are, do you notice, do you realize you will gravitate towards the things that empower you, the things that you are a natural at, the things that you are naturally called to resolve and have a penchant towards, the things that you are gifted at? You will tap into to solve the problems that the world has, for which there will be no shortage of people queued up waiting to pay for your services. What a fulfilled life. You would never have to work a single day in your life. I just spoke with you for about an hour without having to consult any notes because I just download what it is I have to say. All I have to do is be calm, collected, composed, feel safe, secure, and comfortable. Be relaxed. And the knowledge flows through me as I get out of the way. I want that for you. But for that, we need to find that thing that makes you tick. And it's never too late to start on that journey. Notice if I'm doing this, I never have to work a single day in my life because anyone and everyone who knows me knows that I jump into this, I do a deep dive, and I hit these conversations, whether I am at work or out of work. So I work 24/7. The whole concept of work-life balance means absolutely nothing to me because I'm working 24 hours and I'm having fun 24 hours. There's absolutely no separation. And you wonder why we all have multiple personality disorders, because we have to be something else at work, something else within the community, something else in the society, something else in our social groups, something else in our communities, in our cultural groups, a different identity at home. And that is, now you tell me, what kind of life is that? Why not be one authentic person that you shove around? So regardless of where you go, everybody has the exact same thing to say about you. Not different versions for different environments, different horses for different causes. Yes, you get to wear different caps. Yes, you get to take on different roles. But someone should be able to see a silver lining that threads every single role, every responsibility, every identity, every hat that you wear. There should be something about your foundation, its fabric, that is authentic, that is true, that is immutable, unchanging, across the board. That's why it's important to have values, moral ethos, principles, and scruples that become the gatekeepers. The nicheless niche. That's why we don't do niches in Mindset Boulevard. That's why Tony Robbins does not do niches. And I gravitated towards Anthony Robbins because he connected with something that I had identified a long time ago. He just had the courage to bring it to the fore at a time when I was questioning if I was not the mad one. He's opened the floodgates. And the likes of us, you and I, should take the reins, run with the current. For you, it may start with this intervention. It may start with bringing whatever challenge you believe you have, because trust me, whatever it is you think you're struggling with, the problem, the block is in you. It is not out there. The person you're struggling with is just bringing from within you that which you carry on the inside. It could be your manager at work. It could be your spouse at home. It could be your child. Every last one of them is a teacher. That teacher brings with them a lesson. Your role, your responsibility is to find the lesson. Mine, in this case, is to help you identify the teacher, the lesson, reframe the experience so you can stop seeing the problem you used to see, start seeing a challenge which we will turn into a stepping stone so you can embrace the opportunity that it actually is. They're all teaching you humility, patience, love and light, gratitude, forgiveness. It was great talking to you. Let's catch up again in the next episode.